Hi, my name's Annette Spaulding, and a lot of people ask me over the years, how long have you been scuba diving? Well, I started when I was about 12 years old. I actually started snorkeling when I was about 5 or 6, and I got pretty mad because I would hold my breath and swim as far down as I could. I got down to about 20 feet deep from the age of about 12 on, and I am very happy to say I finally got a scuba tank on my back so I could stay down to find the things that I wanted to see. I have been in love with water all my life, and I love history. And over the years, my whole focus was on archaeology, history, and I just love it. And I'm an explorer. I just love it. So I would have to say that right today, this is a little distracting because I'm sitting here at the Bellows Historical Society where I do so much of my research because I've been to 146 islands in my life that I'm not really sure what countries they belong to, in 43 different countries. I've dove all over the world. I have been on historic shipwrecks and led expeditions for finding airplanes, and many other things. But my favorite place to dive in the world is right here, our 410-mile Connecticut River. Our Connecticut River is a heritage river it's one of 14 designated for archaeological, historical, environmental. It is amazing, this river, and I love it. And I have been focused. I've done 167 dives this year, and most of those dives have been in this river. Back when I was younger, as a child, I had a very bad experience, but I should say it was a good experience thanks to the underwater rescue team. When I was 12 years old, they came into our school along with the firemen to tell us what to do on our long vacation over Christmas and the holidays, what to do if I ever fell through the ice or anyone else ever did, and what not to do. So what ended up happening, this is just an amazing story to me, but it's what another very important part of my life is volunteering my time and diving on the underwater rescue team. And I've been on the underwater rescue team since I've been 18 years old. I feel strongly about it because they came into our school just several days later. My sister fell through the ice. We used to ice skate with my dad. He would have tilts up and we'd be ice fishing. My sister fell through the ice, and I used every technique that I learned from the wonderful firemen and their underwater rescue team of what to do and how to scream for help, but not to let anyone come close to me, and order them to lay down, spread their weight out. It was an amazing thing, and it all just clicked in of what they told us to do. So my sister, when she fell through the ice, we were racing on our ice skates to the tilt. She did not die, and I am so thankful that I had that and that instruction. So I'm a firm believer so much in education like that, and I currently am dispatched through Key Mutual Aid, and I serve out of Walpole. And we cover a very large amount of area here, and the divers that I work with are so professional, and in Brattleboro as well. So I'm very thankful that really is where people always ask me, why do you dive in the underwater rescue team? So I did just want to, talk about that briefly. But my other passion when I was younger is, as I said, I was holding my breath and I'd see things down below, and I would always want to know what they were and where they came from. I just am fascinated by history. So here I am, 40 years later, diving in the river. And just to give you an idea of what has happened just in the last month, on my dives, 167 so far this year, the exciting thing is to have the water quality that we have right now. When I started serving on the underwater rescue team here in the river, the calls that we had more than 30 years ago, the water was so polluted you could only see this far in front of you, which made it very difficult to find victims that were possibly in a kayak that overturned, or a boat, or snowmobile, unfortunately. And what happens is, with cold water revival, people can actually be rescued, and children, up to an hour and 45 minutes later in some cases, and adults usually about an hour. Cold water revival is really important. Years ago, people thought that if you were underwater, they brought you up, you're unconscious, you were dead. That is not the case, and all the history of that and medical research, it's amazing what can happen. So it's really important that people know that a person that goes underwater can very much be possibly revived. And it's too technical to get into that procedure right now. And actually, I'm not a doctor, so I can't even go over the exact technical way that they do this. However, what's really important is to know that that exists. And the cleaner the water is, the water quality, and the younger the child, the younger the person is, the better survival rate. Well, the Connecticut River has done a total reversal. I cannot believe it. As I was saying, you could see this far in front of you, and now I have up to 30, 40-foot visibility underwater. So as far as rescuing a person, that is so, so much better than it was in the past, and success rate is so much better. And the other thing, as far as my history and what I love here, when I dive on specific organizational dives, such as shipwreck research on the Witta in Massachusetts, I did that. See that Massachusetts accent coming out right now? I just noticed Massachusetts, Worcester, that's how they talk. Anyway, underwater, I don't talk. But anyway, the funny part of it is, I've done major searches all over the world. But what I love about the river is this river goes from Long Island Sound to the Canadian border, up by the Connecticut lakes. Can you imagine the history that we have had here? We have everything here from Captain Kidd coming up the river, and yes, it really happened, in Northfield, Massachusetts Archives and their Historical Society. I couldn't believe it. There is an island named Kidd Island, and you know why? Captain Kidd. Okay, so we have fur traders, we have development, we have the Native Americans. Their amazing history here. They were the first people of this beautiful river. We have so much steamboats coming up the river for the first time. I'm here in Bellows Falls right now, and I've had another discovery this past year, and we'll go into that later, but involving steamboats in like 1840s and coming all the way up from Connecticut. And they couldn't go around the Great Falls because of the way it was. So there was amazing. We had a canal here with locks and bringing them up from those locks and actually bringing it by cart and putting these steamboats back in the river to travel north. It's amazing. And I did not know all this history before, but thanks to historical societies and all the people that help me with my research, when I'm finding things, I learn these things. We have the canal, we have the steamboats, we have all this history. We have the Adams grist mill. It's one of the first mills. It was built in the late 1700s. These are the things that are so different diving in the river, because when you're diving, you never know what you're going to find. I have so much excitement discovering and exploring, and I really don't think I've ever made a dive. Out of thousands of dives now in the Connecticut River, I don't think I've ever made a dive here and not found anything or something that was very historic. Some days I find, Bellows Falls Co-op bottles from back in the first National Store days. I find things relating to steamboats. I find things relating to trains. I find all kinds of things that I would hope in the future I will be doing some more series regarding other incredible discoveries. But just to give you an example, I got really concerned when I found a shell like this underwater. And this isn't the one I found, but it was just like this because it was too heavy for me to lift up and the current was too strong at the time. And I'm thinking, what are we doing with this in the river? And, this is how everybody helps each other. I was telling Larry Clark, who's on our historical society, I said, Larry, you're not going to believe what I found. And, it takes a group. I love the communication with everyone because it's the public and people and the historical societies that help me learn about what I'm finding. And it's always an adventure. So anyway, just with this particular find, Larry's like, I'm talking and asking him, and he said, does it look like the one right here on my bureau? And I looked, sure enough, what I found was Larry Clark's relative worked at the Farm and Machine Tool Company in Bellows Falls. One of the industrial leaders. We manufactured shells. I mean, see, I wouldn't have known that. It was so funny. And another thing, I'm sitting, by the way, in front of Hetty Green's. You probably can't see it, but this is Hetty Green's bed right here. And I have to be really careful. You can't touch it, but this is from her house. The Wicked Witch of Wall Street. I really did not want to sit in front of the Wicked Witch of Wall Street's material because I'm not that way. But anyway, it's incredible history. So I'm not going to put the shell, though, on Hetty's bed. So this is another thing that I found, and this is why it's so important to always have other people. Well, this is kind of obvious, right? Well, underwater, it wasn't because it was just these things were sticking out of the sand. And I'm like, what is that? So after unburying it, these are tongs from years ago, recovering and bringing ice out of the blocks of ice out of the river and the setbacks. So it's like you never know what you're going to find. I found this, and this was really heavy, and I had to crawl with it on the bottom because I couldn't get up from the surface. But, I mean, these are just samples of things I find. And this is what happens. You find these things. It's not like you're looking for an airplane, you find the airplane, or you're looking for a shipwreck and you find that. Every dive is so exciting. I never know what I'm going to find. So this particular day, I find this thing. It weighs a lot, maybe 20 pounds. And I had no idea what this thing is, right? And it has a number on it. It says 6'2". I had no idea. So I was asking Larry Clark and others and trained people, and everyone was helping me identify what I had. This is a pin that went in between trains to hold them together. Would I have known that? No. But you know what? I found it where there was a train wreck and a derailment. And this actually, in the 1800s, held 2 train cars together. This is so exciting. How could I not be, here I am an explorer. How could I leave the Connecticut River and go on a shipwreck excursion for a month of looking for one particular wreck? I'd rather do this any day. I love the river and it's so clean. And so I started volunteering. I was so impressed with some of the things that happened. About 30 years ago, I kept finding the river was so polluted. And as I found things like propane tanks and things underwater that shouldn't be underwater, I said, what am I going to do? And I remember reading articles that David Dean wrote. He was a member of the Connecticut River Conservancy back then, and he would write these incredible articles about the Connecticut River, the health of the river, discoveries of the river. And I was so inspired, and on the bottom it had his phone number, and I gave him a call, and I said, David, I never met you before, but I was wondering if you could help me. I'm a diver, and I've been volunteering. So I called David and I said, David, I need to find someone to help me, an organization or something. I'll volunteer my time to bring these things up that I find over to the shoreline, but I need someone to help me get them out of the water. I don't have access to whatever we need, cranes or multiple people to do so. I was so impressed. David told me about the Connecticut River Conservancy, and that same day, not just the same day, within a few hours, David took action, and the Conservancy volunteers came and removed this and brought it to the proper places, recycling, etc. And I was impressed, and that's when I became a member about 30 years ago of the Connecticut River Conservancy. And it's them advocating for the wonderful cleanliness of this river, along with many other groups, river groups, Black River and Springfield, and all these other different watershed groups coming together that care about this river. And look at it now. People ask me all the time, you're diving in the Connecticut River? Yes, I am. It's a total reversal. It has changed so much over the years, and it's so clean, and I love it. And the fish are healthy. So fishermen all the time will say, they'll ask me, there's so much just history and discovery and exploration, and I love looking at the fish. And bass are really social critters. Walleye are not, they're skittish and that type of thing, and trout. But bass, largemouth, smallmouth, they know when I'm in the water, I'm going to feed them crayfish. So I start having them follow me around, and, fishermen are always asking me, do you see, healthy fish? Where are they? I see, American eels. I see wonderful things. So I was so impressed by these articles about the Connecticut River and all of the work and effort with other groups to actually clean this river. And my God, it worked. I love reversal. This is a positive thing. And that's what we need in our lives right now, is a positive thing. And speaking of that, actually, with COVID, I do want to mention this. More people than ever have used the river this year. I would be down scuba diving, and people would be kayaking by, or fishermen, and I found that there were so many people that had never ever kayaked before or canoed or went fishing. So I was answering a lot of questions before I got in the water, and people don't know that you're in a wetsuit, and it's 80 degrees out, and you're in this heavy wetsuit to keep you warm underwater because you're down there for so long, and your body cools down 25 times faster in water than in air, so that's why you need that, because you're down there a long time. And they don't know, they're just standing there sweating like crazy and talking to them, and then I would have to say, you guys, you know what, I've got to get into the water because I'm really, really hot right now, but when I come out of the water, if you're still here, I'd be happy to answer your questions. So this happens all the time, but I did meet a lot of people that used the river for the first time this year, and it was great. And I was telling them about a lot of them wanted to know if there were any kind of maps out to know about the river, and there's a great paddlers map put out by a couple of organizations, but they can get it through the Connecticut River Conservancy, and it's awesome. It has like every boat landing, and it tells the depths of the water. I'm asked that all the time, so I would highly recommend that. That is a great paddlers map, and not just for paddlers, but also for fishermen. So I answer all these questions, and I've learned over the years, that people are such a resource. I love it. I love working together. I'm the explorer. I'm the adventurer. I love to find things, but it is everyone else that helps me solve the mystery. And I'm not joking. Everything I find seems to be a mystery. I don't know anything about where did this come from? Why is it here? And then it's really great working with all the historical societies on both sides of the river. Oh my gosh, it's just like, it's great. I think I've been into every historical society locally, north and south of here, including up in Heartland, where I just found Sumner Falls. I never knew why Sumner Falls was named Sumner Falls. Well, now I know, because I kept finding these things underwater. They were all old tools from the early 1800s, giant chains and links, and I had no idea, so I went to the Historical Society to find out about Mr. Sumner, who invented this incredible mill where you can saw logs on the river. It's just too long to go into right now, but this is what's happening. I want to find things, and I do, but then, oh my gosh, you should see my house. I have a library now with every historic thing I keep finding, the history, and thanks to all the historical societies. And I did not know a lot about our historical societies before all this research I had to do, really focusing on the river, everything Brattleboro, Northfield, all the way up to Heartland. And I've been doing I've had 6 significant finds here, right here in Bellows Falls, right down by the Adams Grist Mill, down to the Westminster Station. There's only a few miles in between there, and I've had 6 significant historical finds, which I think I will be doing maybe a whole separate show on each one of those. It would be impossible to tell you all of that right now, but it's just I just wanted to emphasize the importance of our historical societies and supporting them. They are so inexpensive to become a member, very inexpensive. I would highly suggest, and I would recommend, if you could please support these wonderful societies, as well as the Connecticut River Conservancy and other water organizations to protect our beautiful river. And so now more and more people are kayaking and canoeing and fishing, and everyone's enjoying it and loving it. And the view from here, sitting here, I'm looking up at Table Rock, up over the Connecticut River, and I'm looking down on the Adams Grist Mill, which I believe we might be filming a little bit from there today or another time. But in the river, oh my God. So I would have to say that, oh, another thing, my voice might be a little funny because I'm in the water, and I was in the water before I came here, and I was in the river last night diving. So if my voice is a little funny, I'm underwater hours at a time, and I have a little bit of a dry mouth. So anyway, let's go diving.